All right, so what we're going to take a look at today is expanding and simplifying polynomials. We're going to start with ones that are a little bit more on the basic side, and then we're going to expand into ones that are a little bit more complex. Now, if you want to take a look at previous videos that I've done that include the FOIL or grid method, you can definitely do that. Take a look through my channel, and you can find those. If you're in my class, you can look through the notes, and there are links to the videos in the notes as well. So the one we're going to do today, we're going to take a look at a plus 3 and a plus 2, a little bit of review of what we have done or what I have done in the past, but it might be new for you. And if we use either grid or FOIL method, we're taking each piece in the first polynomial, so the a and the 3, and we have to multiply them to each piece in the second polynomial. And when we do that, we're going to get this right here. So a times a gives us a squared, a times 2 gives us 2, that should be a, sorry, and then 3 times a gives us 3a, and 3 times 2 gives us 6. Now, again, remember, this should be an a. I apologize for that. But when we combine these together, so 2a and 3a, we're going to get 5a, which gives us our completed polynomial. So this is just, again, a way of multiplying them out. We have to make sure we take everything in the first term or first polynomial and multiply it to each term in the second polynomial. The second one that we're going to do here, this one becomes a little more complex because now we have coefficients in front of our variable. And so we have 3d and 2d, which in essence doesn't change what we do, but it does just, we have to remember that we need to use our the numbers and the letters, not just letters. So when we multiply this out, again, either using FOIL or grid or some other method that you might have taken a look at, we're going to get this. 3d and 2d becomes 6d squared. 3d and 5 becomes 15d. Negative 2 and 2d becomes negative 4d. And negative 2 and 5 becomes negative 10. With this here, again, we have the like terms. We have negative 4d and 15d, and so we can combine them together. Negative 4 and 15 becomes 11d. And so we have 6d squared plus 11d minus 10. Let's do another one here. Again, just continual practice, and you can work on these as well. Gladly pause the video and work through it and then see if we get the same answer. That would be awesome. This one, we have a little bit of a difference where I've mixed around where the variables are. So in the first one, we have an e first and then an f. And in the second one, we have an f first and then an e. And you'll notice we have two different variables. We have an e and an f, which can play into it a little bit as well. So we're going to do the same thing. Either use grid or FOIL method. You can do either or. 2e and 4f becomes 8ef. Now remember, the order of those doesn't matter. We can do fe if you want as well. I like doing alphabetical order, so I'm going to do ef. Then we take 2e and negative 3e and get negative 6e squared. 5f and 4f becomes 20f squared. And 5f and negative 3e becomes negative 15ef. Now, a little bit different from the previous one, our like terms are not in the middle. Okay, e squared and f squared are not like terms. We cannot combine them. But ef and ef over here are like terms, and so we can combine them. 8 and negative 15 is going to give us negative 7. And so when we go through this here, we're going to get negative 7ef. I put the negative 6e squared first, then the ef, then the f squared. It doesn't really matter as long as our sign in front is proper. So the 20f squared is positive, the 6e squared is negative, so we have to keep the negative in front of the 6e squared and the positive in front of the 20f squared. And that is super important. All right, let's move on to another one. And we're going to add in another little wrinkle here where we have a 3-term polynomial or a trinomial being multiplied to a binomial. Now, if you're going to use FOIL, you again, it changes things up a little bit, but you have to take each term in the first one and multiply it to each term in the second one. You have 3 terms in the first one, 2 terms in the second one. 3 times 2 is 6. You're going to do 6 operations. C squared to C, C squared to 4, 5C to C, 5C to 4, 6 to C, and 6 to 4. Now remember the positives and negatives. I just kind of skipped over them for the time being. What I like and what many people like that I have seen, they like using the grid method for something like this. Now you can use a grid method either 3 down and 2 across, or 3 across and 2 down. It doesn't really matter as long as your trinomial is on the 3 side. C, 5C, or C squared, 5C, and negative 6 are on one side, and then C and negative 4 are on the other side. Now, we multiply it out. We've gone through grid method before. Again, you can take a look at a link to it and see what it is as well. But take a look at the multiplication, okay? Each one gets multiplied together, and so our results are going to look like this. C cubed, C and C squared is C cubed, 5C squared, negative 6C, negative 4C squared, negative 20C, and 24. Now, when we're looking at this, we could write it all out if we wanted to. That is an option. But I would recommend looking at our like terms first. And we have 2 sets of like terms. They are these ones right here. So we're going to combine them. C cubed is going to stay by itself because there's only one C cubed. We have 2 C squared terms. It's going to become C squared, just 1 C squared. 5 and negative 4 is 1 C squared. Negative 6 and negative 20 is negative 26C. And then the 24, again, as a constant, is all by itself. And so these are going to come and create our new polynomial. And that's going to become our answer. Let's do another one here. Let's try this. So we have a binomial and a trinomial, okay, that we're going to multiply together. Again, I would recommend using the grid method. I like the grid method. It's kind of up to you. But in this case here, it helps to kind of organize our thoughts really nicely. So let's multiply them out. Now, heads up here, again, we have multiple variables. So we have x's and we have y's that we're going to use. And so we have to be careful when we multiply them out because we're going to get some that have xy and some that have x squared, some that have y squared, and some that are just y in this case. So what we see is these are going to be our results. Okay, 12x squared, negative 9xy, 15x, negative 8xy, 6y squared, and negative 10y. Are there any like terms? Sure enough, there's this one right here. I don't have an animation for this here. Apologize for that. But we know that these two are like terms. Negative 9 and negative 8 would become negative 17. And those are the only like terms. So everything else stays the way it is. The 12x squared comes here. The negative 17 comes there. Y squared, x, and y. And that's going to be our final result. In this case, we have a 5-term polynomial as the result. And that's the way that we are going to leave it. All right, let's do one more example here that we're going to look at. In this case, we're looking at something that is squared. Now, when we see something like this, where we have a polynomial which is squared, we have to remember, what does that squared represent, or how does it affect the way that things are written? Well, squared means we're multiplying it by itself. So we can take the polynomial 4k minus 3m and square it, multiply it by itself. Now, there are some tricks that we can look at when we're doing this, and we could actually go from our original and just come up with our answer. But if we don't see those tricks right away, and I'll explain them in just a minute, we can do exactly this and just multiply it through. 4k times 4k, 4k times negative 3m, negative 3m times 4k, and negative 3m times negative 3m. When we do that, we're going to get this as a result. Okay, 4k squared. Sorry, that should be 16k squared. I fixed it on the next one. All right. So that should be 16k squared. And then we have negative 12km, negative 12km, and then positive 9m squared. Now, what you'll notice is that, and so when we combine this, this becomes negative 24km. The 16k squared, okay, so 4k squared is 16k squared. Negative 3m squared is 9m squared. And then if we do 4k times 3m, we're going to do it twice. So we multiply that by 2. 4 times 3 is 12, times 2 is 24. It happens to be negative, and that would be our middle piece, and we can use that to solve. So take a look through the process. Understand that we can always use FOIL or grid, as long as we multiply each term in the first polynomial to each term in the second polynomial, and when we square things, we're multiplying by itself.